Let's get right to it. Every profession has its own vernacular, and the machine learning space is no exception. In this video, let's cover some terms you'll need to know. One sure sign someone hasn't worked in the real world is using the wrong terms or vernacular. Now, I'll post a link to the video below that I did on defining machine learning and artificial intelligence. If you get those wrong, I end the interview. If you can't give me a real-world definition for machine learning, you can't work in the space. In this video, let's go ahead and move beyond those definitions. Number one, in machine learning, we use the term model. A machine learning model is nothing more than computer code that looks for patterns in data. The model itself is an algorithm. The model itself is code that's saved to disk that can be called later on fresh data, or data it's never seen before, in order to make predictions. Number two, machine learning models are built on objects called arrays. An array is nothing more than a table. Now, I'm not going to talk about arrays here because I did a video on those yesterday, and I'll create a link to that video below. The two terms I want to focus on here are columns and rows. In the database world, we use the terms column and rows to define the data in our tables. In the machine learning world, we use the term feature or attributes for columns and observations for rows. Therefore, feature selection is choosing the right columns for a model. Therefore, our next term is feature selection. This simply means choosing the correct columns or features for the model. Now, don't get this confused with feature engineering. They aren't the same thing. Feature selection simply means choosing the right columns for your model. Feature engineering is actually manipulating the feature or the column in some way. Let's say I have a date timestamp ingested from a relational database. Many database vendors combine these into one column. I author code to split out the data and the time. I've just completed feature engineering on that column or feature. Next up is the word dataset. A dataset is nothing more than all the rows or observations you're going to use to build your model. Here's an example. You have a CSV file and it has 1,000 rows in it. Observations. That means your dataset has 1,000 observations in it. Now, that may not be all the data you have available, but it is your dataset. The top language in all of machine learning is Python. One of the top reasons it's used so much in the real world are its libraries. That's our next term. A library is not part of core Python. A library is pre-written code that lives outside of Python that you can bring in or import. There's another important term. We use the word import to bring in the library into our environment. An example of a library is Keras for deep learning and Pandas for data manipulation. These libraries have specific functions. For example, the Keras library we just mentioned is a front end for building deep learning models. Pandas is a library for working or massaging data. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day.